Evenings have become long. The silence in our house is broken only by the faint ticking of the wall clock, and I often notice how seconds turn into minutes, minutes into hours, and the pain, it's always there. It crawls up my spine again, rising from my lower back to my neck, like a heavy stone, making every breath a struggle. I don't remember when it all began. It feels like a long time ago, but my memory is clouded with fog. My thoughts wander back to the days when evenings were filled with laughter, warm conversations, and shared moments with Andrew. I remember the way he used to look at me with admiration, his eyes sparkling with love and affection. But now, those moments seem like they belong to a different lifetime, buried under layers of pain and confusion. I wonder if we can ever go back to those days, or if they are lost forever, overshadowed by the growing distance between us. Andrew has become more distant too. He spends more time at work or engrossed in his hobbies, and his attempts to connect with me feel more like a duty than a genuine desire. I find myself wondering if he senses the change in me, the restlessness that gnaws at my soul. I see him watching me, sometimes with a look of worry, other times with a look I can't quite decipher. Perhaps it's suspicion or even fear. The work that once brought me so much joy has now turned into pure torture. I am an interior designer. Ideas swirl in my head, images, colors, textures, but the pain makes every stroke, every line, every project feel like a punishment. It drains my inspiration, breaks my mood, and leaves me exhausted and detached. There was a time when creating spaces felt like breathing, a natural expression of my soul. I loved to play with light, textures, and colors, turning blank canvases into reflections of dreams and personalities. But now, each project is like a mountain I must climb, with my body rebelling against every step. I look at my hands, once steady and precise, now trembling with frustration. I wonder if this pain is my body's way of telling me something deeper, something I have refused to acknowledge. Andrew, my husband, notices the change. He often looks at me with concern. Tonight, as we sit in the kitchen, he breaks the silence. "Madison, you can't go on like this. Find a massage therapist. It will help." His words make me think. I know he's right, but only one thought pulses in my mind. Brian, my adoptive father, a professional masseur whose hands once worked wonders. But every time I think of him, scenes from the past flash before my eyes. His long stares, ambiguous compliments, gestures that left a bitter aftertaste. I brushed off my feelings back then, tried to ignore them, but now this memory pulls me back to the past. My mind drifts back to the last time I saw Brian. It was at a family gathering years ago. His eyes lingered on me a bit too long. His hand brushed mine in what felt like a calculated move. I remember feeling a chill run down my spine, a discomfort I couldn't quite place. At that moment, I felt vulnerable, exposed, and I haven't seen him since. Could he have changed? Could he still be the man who, despite his flaws, has a gift for healing? However, the pain is so strong that I decide to take the risk. Maybe he's changed? Maybe I'm over-dramatizing? After all, he is a professional with an excellent reputation. Andrew, hearing about my decision, nods approvingly. I arrange the first session with Brian, feeling anxiety mixed with a faint hope rising in my chest. I open the door to Brian's office, and a sense of calm immediately envelops me. The dim lighting softly illuminates the room, reflecting off the wooden wall panels, creating an atmosphere of warmth and comfort. The air is filled with a light scent of essential oils, lavender, sandalwood, and something else, elusive but so pleasant. Quiet music fills the space with soft, almost imperceptible sounds that soothe and set the mood for relaxation. Brian greets me with a professional smile, but his gaze lingers on my figure a bit longer than it should. I notice it, but try not to give it any significance, convincing myself it's just my imagination. His greeting sounds familiarly warm, and he suggests I get comfortable on the massage table. As he begins the massage, his touch is confident, but his hands linger slightly longer on certain areas. I feel his hands glide over my back as if exploring every muscle, every tension. "You've grown up, Madison, and become even more beautiful," he says softly, almost in a whisper. His voice carries a hint of admiration, and I feel a slight shiver run through my body. His words make me tense up, but I quickly suppress this feeling, focusing on the relaxing effect of the massage. Gradually, the pain in my back begins to subside, and I feel some relief. The session continues, and I almost forget my doubts, enjoying how the tension leaves my body. Eventually, Brian finishes the massage and, with professional care, suggests I undergo a full course for complete recovery. I know it might be beneficial for my health, and despite my mixed feelings, I agree. As the days pass, I find myself thinking about Brian more often than I care to admit. I start to notice the subtle changes in his behavior, the way his hands linger a little too long, his voice lowers to a near whisper, and his gaze seems to drink me in with each session. There's a part of me that wants to believe it's all in my head, that I'm reading too much into things. Yet every time I close my eyes, I can feel his touch, the heat of his hands on my skin, and I can't shake the feeling that something is shifting, something I'm not entirely in control of. A few days have passed since that first massage session with Brian. The pain in my back has lessened a bit, but it's still there, like a reminder that one visit did not bring complete relief. During this time, I can't stop thinking about Brian's touch. Memories of his hands gliding over my body stir a strange mix of anxiety and curiosity within me. His words, his gazes, they all come back to me, occupying my thoughts whenever I'm alone. Andrew, my husband, notices that I've become more pensive. He sees me occasionally freeze, staring into space, and often asks what I'm thinking about. But he's glad that my back pain is easing and that I seem a little freer and more relaxed. He seems confident that things are improving. I hesitate. I ponder whether I should go back to Brian. On one hand, I know his massage truly helped, but on the other, these strange feelings his touch evokes won't let me rest. Yet the pain hasn't completely gone away, and I decide to give it another chance. I book a second session and feel a slight excitement before the upcoming meeting. I can't quite pinpoint what is causing this feeling. Perhaps it's more than just the hope for pain relief. I come to the second session with a slight sense of nervousness, feeling my heart beating a little faster than usual. Brian greets me in his office with his usual smile, but I notice that he seems more confident than last time. "Today we will try a deeper massage," he says, emphasizing that it will help to completely release tension and relieve the remaining pain. I nod, trying not to show my anxiety. He begins the massage, his movements becoming more intense, his hands pressing firmly into my muscles, penetrating deeper. At first, it causes a slight discomfort, but then I start to feel my body yielding to his manipulations. However, at some point, I notice his hands beginning to stray beyond the boundaries of a standard procedure. His touches become more lingering, slower, almost like gentle strokes. I freeze for a moment, feeling an internal conflict. Part of me wants to stop this session, get up and leave. But another part, the one that has been suffering from pain and tension for so long, craves more. My body responds to his touches, and I feel my breathing quicken. Brian continues, his voice soft, almost a whisper. "You're relaxing, Madison. Allow yourself to let go of all the tension." I don't object. I feel a mix of guilt and a strange kind of pleasure. I want to believe that it's all for my health, to finally get rid of this pain. As the session draws to a close, Brian again suggests continuing the course. I hesitate, feeling an internal struggle, but eventually I agree, though mixed feelings still linger inside me. Days turn into weeks, and the sessions with Brian become a routine I can't do without. Every time I walk into his office, I feel an odd mixture of anxiety and excitement. It's as if I'm stepping into a forbidden world, where rules are blurred and the boundaries are unclear. And each time, his touches become more intimate, more personal. I find myself craving his attention, the way his hands move over my skin, the way his voice dips low when he speaks to me. I continue going to regular sessions with Brian, and with each visit, our meetings become more intense and step further away from what could be considered a normal massage. Brian seems to sense my inner conflict and uses it to his advantage, offering new techniques and approaches that become increasingly explicit each time. During this session, directly on the massage table, he slowly removes the towel from my body, and a passionate contact begins between us, escalating into something more. The pain in my back has completely disappeared, Yet I keep coming to him under the pretense of prevention. I tell myself it's necessary to maintain my health, but inside something else is growing, something elusive, and at the same time, captivating. Brian becomes more persistent with his compliments. He often tells me how beautiful I look, how he enjoys seeing me relaxed and satisfied. With each session, his touches become more prolonged, and the additional elements of the massage stray further away from professional boundaries. These sessions invariably end with compromising contact that begins right on the massage table, something I can no longer call just a massage. I feel guilty. Every time I return home, I feel two voices battling within me. One whispers that I am betraying my husband, my family. The other tries to justify me, insisting that it's all for my health. And yet, I cannot deny that there is something alluring in this attention and these new sensations. Brian knows how to touch not just my body, but my soul as well. I try to convince myself that this is just part of the treatment process, but it's becoming harder each time. Andrew begins to notice that I keep going to massages, even though my back no longer hurts. Every time I return from Brian's office, I seem too lively, too cheerful to him. I can feel his eyes on me, scrutinizing every move. His gaze becomes more intense, and it's getting harder to ignore his questions, his hints. One evening, when I come home from another session, Andrew asks me directly, "Why do you keep going to Brian? Your back doesn't hurt anymore." His voice sounds calm, but I hear notes of doubt and suspicion. I pretend not to notice his mood and reply with a smile. "He really helps me, not just with the pain, but overall. I feel much better." Yet his eyes don't leave me, and I realize he doesn't believe my words. Andrew doesn't let it go. "Maybe you should find another massage therapist, just to see how it goes with someone else," he suggests, seemingly casually. But I feel the insistence in his words. This suggestion makes me tense. I refuse more sharply than I intended. "No, I don't need that. Brian knows what he's doing." Andrew nods silently, but I see that his suspicions are only growing. He no longer hides his concern, and there is a determination in his eyes to find out the truth. I feel the tension between us building, unspoken questions hanging in the air. I realize that Andrew senses something and that his trust in me is beginning to crack. His face becomes stern, and I know he won't rest until he discovers what's really going on. I start to understand that playing with fire might turn into a real storm. Andrew can no longer ignore his suspicions. He notices that my behavior has changed, that I've become withdrawn and avoid his gaze. It seems our conversations now always end in tense silence. He realizes that he must find out the truth at any cost. One evening, when I think he's busy with work, Andrew starts devising a plan of action. He knows that mere conversations won't be enough. He needs evidence. He decides that the only way to find out what is happening between me and Brian is to see it with his own eyes. After several days of research, Andrew accidentally discovers that there are surveillance cameras installed in Brian's massage room. This gives him an idea. He realizes that if he can gain access to the recordings from these cameras, he can uncover what is really happening behind closed doors. Andrew sets to work. He forges documents and identification, posing as a surveillance system specialist. He concocts a cover story. Supposedly, he has been assigned to check the security system at the massage parlor. All of this requires time and caution, but he is determined. The next day, he arrives at the salon, dressed in uniform and with fake credentials. He politely introduces himself to the receptionist, explaining that he's there to inspect the surveillance cameras. His confidence and calm demeanor do not arouse any suspicion. After a brief conversation, he is allowed to proceed to the system. Andrew, with the composure of a professional, examines the equipment and pretends to check the settings. But his true goal is to access the surveillance footage. He finds the server and begins copying the files onto his flash drive. A few minutes stretch out endlessly, but he manages to do everything unnoticed. As he leaves the salon, he has the evidence in his hands, the video recordings that should reveal the whole truth. On his way home, he feels a strange mix of anxiety and relief. He knows this could change everything, but he also understands that he can't stop halfway. Now he is ready to discover the full truth. When Andrew finally gets home, he heads straight to his study, unable to wait a moment longer. He plugs the flash drive into his computer, feeling his heart begin to race. He knows these recordings could change everything, but he also understands that he needs to see the truth with his own eyes. Andrew begins to watch the footage from the cameras. At first, everything seems normal. Standard procedures, Madison lying on the massage table and Brian doing his work. But the longer he watches, the more his eyes widen in horror. He notices how, with each session, Brian's and Madison's behavior becomes more explicit. Their touches become too personal, their conversations too intimate. Then a peak moment unfolds on the screen. Andrew sees Brian remove the towel and begin kissing her neck, his hands sliding over her body, pressing closer than would be acceptable in any professional situation. Madison doesn't pull away. On the contrary, her body clearly responds to his actions. At that moment, Andrew freezes. He cannot believe his eyes. All his suspicions are suddenly confirmed in the most shocking way. Shock and rage tear him apart from the inside. Every movement on the screen feels like a knife in his heart. He feels a wave of anger rising within him. How could she? This thought won't leave his mind, nor will the realization that the person he once trusted, her adoptive father, Brian, has betrayed him in the most unexpected way. Andrew can't watch anymore. He shuts down the computer, feeling a hot wave of rage coursing through his body, but he knows he needs to act. His wife must see what he has seen. She must explain herself. Andrew begins preparing the recordings. He transfers the videos to his tablet, resolutely getting ready for the upcoming confrontation. His hands tremble slightly, but his resolve is firm. He knows that the hardest part lies ahead, the moment of truth. The evening seemed normal. I returned home after another session with Brian, confident that Andrew was at work. The whole situation seemed under control, and though doubts and guilt gnawed at me, I tried not to think too much about them. But when I entered the living room, I saw Andrew standing by the window. His face was stern and his eyes were burning with cold determination. He turned to me, holding a tablet in his hands. "We need to talk," he said, his voice filled with emotions I couldn't immediately read. I felt something heavy tightening inside me, sensing trouble. He pressed a button on the tablet screen and the surveillance footage started playing right in front of me. My heart stopped when I saw Brian and me on the screen. Every movement, every glance, every peak moment, everything was recorded, and there was no way out. I felt the ground disappear beneath my feet, and terror filled every cell of my body. "How could you?" Andrew's voice cut through the silence like a knife. He didn't even give me a chance to explain. His face was twisted with anger. "You betrayed me, betrayed our family. With your adoptive father? How could you stoop so low?" I try to say something, to explain that I don't know how it happened, but he cuts me off with a sharp wave of his hand. "I don't need your excuses. I'm filing for divorce. I will take everything. The house, the money, everything we've built together." His voice is filled with resolve and fury, and I realize he's not joking. I stand, stunned and hollow, unable to utter a word. Andrew turns and, without saying another word, leaves the house, slamming the door behind him. I am left in the empty living room, where the only sounds are my rapid breathing and the pounding fear. Shock, despair, and confusion fill me. Everything that was hidden has now burst out, and I don't know how to deal with it. My life seems to have crumbled in a single moment, and I stand in silence, realizing I've lost everything. Andrew decides that a divorce alone is not enough. He cannot simply forgive, not me, nor Brian. The mere thought of what happened fuels his anger. He decides to destroy Brian's reputation and make him pay for his actions. Andrew files a complaint with medical authorities, accusing Brian of unprofessional conduct, ethical violations, and abusing the trust of his clients. The process begins to gain momentum. The complaint is officially accepted and an investigation is launched. Medical boards and regulatory bodies start examining Brian's practice. At first, this only shocks Brian, but soon he faces real problems. Clients begin to cancel their appointments, fearing his reputation is tarnished. His colleagues start looking at him with suspicion, and rumors spread like wildfire. Brian's reputation crumbles before his eyes. He is forced to close his office and his income plummets. The medical community turns its back on him, and new clients stop coming. The situation worsens and Brian finds himself on the brink of total collapse. He realizes that everything he has achieved is now in jeopardy because of his mistakes. I begin to realize just how serious the consequences of my actions have been. I feel that all of this is my fault. The guilt for allowing myself to get involved in this situation, for deceiving Andrew and betraying his trust. Brian tries to contact me, calls and sends messages, pleading for a meeting, but I no longer want to speak to him. I realize how wrong it was toward everyone close to me, toward Andrew, my family, and myself. I do not answer his calls. I can no longer face Brian because every word from him reminds me of how far things have gone. I feel guilty and confused, but I know that I no longer want to be part of this deceit and betrayal. After the truth came out, my life fell apart at an incredible speed. The scandal surrounding my relationship with Brian became public knowledge. Soon, rumors reached my workplace. I noticed how my colleagues began to whisper behind my back, how the once friendly glances turned wary and judgmental. The stress and anxiety grew with each passing day. I couldn't concentrate on my work, and my projects started to fail one by one. My reputation, which I had built over the years, crumbled before my eyes. Management hinted that my presence was no longer needed, and soon I was asked to leave. I lost my job, and with it, the last bit of stability in my life. Now I feel completely isolated. People I once considered friends keep their distance from me. My family avoids contact, not wanting to be dragged into the scandal. Even my closest friends don't know how to react and prefer to stay away. I am left alone, with the feeling that everything I loved and hoped for has vanished forever. Meanwhile, Brian also suffers significant losses. Most of his clients abandon his services, fearing the scandal and loss of trust. His reputation, once impeccable, is now forever tarnished. He finds himself on the brink of bankruptcy, his business collapses, and he is forced to close his office. Brian realizes that his actions have destroyed not only his career but his entire life. We both find ourselves in a state of downfall, forced to realize that our actions led to such destructive consequences. He has lost almost everything he held dear, and I have lost everything that made my life whole. There is only silence and emptiness around, and I don't know how to find a way out of this state. I find myself in a state where I need to rethink my life. My mistakes have become so obvious that I can no longer avoid their consequences. I decide to see a psychologist to sort myself out, understand why I did what I did, and find a way to move forward. With each session, I begin to realize how much pain and dissatisfaction have built up within me over the past years. The psychologist helps me understand that my actions were the result of many unresolved issues, internal conflicts, and hidden fears. I start looking for new ways to heal, trying to forgive myself and find a foothold to start anew. I sign up for courses, begin practicing yoga, read a lot, and try to find my path in life again. Meanwhile, Andrew, despite the pain, starts building his new life. He decides to leave the past behind and moves to another city with my mother. They manage to hide the reason for the conflict from her to avoid traumatizing her and give her a chance to start a new life with him, away from everything that would remind her of the scandal. My mother trusts him and finds comfort and support in his presence. I know it was a difficult decision for Andrew, but he doesn't want to waste his life on suffering and pain. He focuses on his career and tries to find new meaning in it. I hear that he is succeeding, that he is recovering step by step, and it brings me some relief. I understand that he is also trying to heal, and I wish him happiness even from a distance. We both begin a new chapter in our lives, each in our own way, and I realize that this is my chance to change everything, find new strength, and start over. Several years have passed. I've almost grown accustomed to my new life, slowly finding balance after everything that happened. My world now includes new friends, a job I'm learning to love, and even small joys that help me move forward. But sometimes memories of the past still weigh heavily on me, like ghosts that never completely leave. One day, I am walking down a busy city street lost in my thoughts. People rush by and I am absent-mindedly going over my tasks for the day. Suddenly, I feel someone staring at me intently. I look up and meet a gaze I could never mistake for anyone else's. It's Andrew. For a moment, time seems to stop. We stand facing each other on this street, surrounded by the noise of the city. But in that instant, nothing else matters. I see something new in his eyes, something that has emerged over the years, A calmness, a reconciliation, but also a pain that he probably hasn't fully let go of. Andrew breaks the silence first. "Hi, Madison," he says. His voice steady, but I hear that familiar note I remember from before. I nod and reply, "Hi, Andrew." He pauses briefly, then says, "You know, I think I've managed to forgive you, but I'll never be able to forget." I look at him and realize he's right. We've both been through so much, and even if time heals, the scars remain. I smile at him, though it's a sad smile. "I understand," I say. "I need to move on too, and I'm trying." He nods, and I see a softness in his eyes. "That's right," he says. "We both deserve a chance at a new life." We say goodbye, and I watch him walk away down the street, disappearing into the crowd. I realize that meeting him was a necessary reminder that time has passed and our lives have changed. I need to keep living, leaving the past behind but not forgetting the lessons it taught me. A few more months have passed, and I finally feel ready to move forward. After so many years, I decided to start from scratch and chose a new path for myself. I realized that my past mistakes were more than just failures. They were lessons that taught me how important it is to be honest with myself and others, how crucial it is to appreciate what I have, and how every mistake can be used as an opportunity for growth. I started a new career in what I had always dreamed of doing, interior design. Now that I am working again, I realize that I can not only create something beautiful but also inspire others, helping people find their place in the world, just as I have found mine. Each new achievement, every small success, brought me confidence and a sense that I am still capable of much. My life began to take on new meaning. I learned to enjoy the little things, to find joy in the ordinary. I found the strength to forgive myself and move forward. Now I see my future not as a burden of mistakes and regrets, but as endless potential for growth and development. Meanwhile, Andrew also started a new life. He met a woman with whom he built new, healthy relationships. She turned out to be someone who could understand and support him, and he, in turn, found the strength to open up to her. Together, they were building something new, not burdened by the weight of the past. I heard they were happy, and deep down, I wished them nothing but the best. We both understand that we have completed an important stage in our lives. We have not only survived our mistakes and grievances, but also found the strength to move on. Leaving the past behind, we are ready to start a new chapter, full of new opportunities and discoveries. As I move forward, I begin to feel a sense of liberation that I haven't felt in years. I no longer live in the shadows of my past mistakes. I'm free to rebuild, to become someone new, someone better than I was. I have come to realize that my story does not end with the mistakes I've made. It only begins anew. Each day is a step further from the person I once was, and closer to the person I strive to be. One afternoon, I receive a letter from Brian. My hands tremble as I hold it, feeling the weight of the paper, the heaviness of its message even before I open it. Inside, his words are filled with regret and sorrow. He tells me about the aftermath of everything, about how his life has crumbled, how he lost his practice, his reputation, and most of his friends. He confesses that he blames himself, not just for what happened between us, but for all the decisions that led him to this point. He writes that he is seeking forgiveness, not necessarily from me, but from himself. For a moment, I'm torn. The emotions rush back: anger, sorrow, regret, confusion. I feel a pang of sympathy for him, knowing that he too has suffered. But I also feel a sense of closure. I realize that I am no longer chained to the past, that I do not have to respond to his letter or his plea. I fold the letter back, place it in a drawer, and decide to leave it there, both literally and metaphorically. It's time to move on. As days turn into weeks, I continue to find new reasons to wake up every morning. I discover new hobbies, make new friends, and even begin to travel. The world seems so much bigger now, and my place in it, though uncertain, feels more promising than ever before. I start volunteering at a local community center, sharing my love for design with those who have never had the opportunity to explore their creative sides. I find fulfillment in these small acts of kindness, in seeing joy and excitement light up someone's face. Eventually, I come to realize that while my past has shaped who I am, it does not define who I will be. The scars remain, but they are a reminder of how far I've come, of the strength I've found in myself. I understand now that every person has their own journey, their own lessons to learn, and I'm grateful for mine, however painful they may have been. As I sit in my small, cozy apartment surrounded by the life I've started to build again, I feel a sense of peace wash over me. For the first time in years, I feel truly content. I know the road ahead is long and there will be challenges, but I am no longer afraid. I have faced the worst of myself and survived. I have found the courage to live again, to love again, and to believe that, despite everything, I deserve happiness. And so, with a deep breath, I look toward the future with hope. I smile, knowing that this is just the beginning of a new story, one that I will write with strength, resilience, and a heart open to all the possibilities the world has to offer.